y'all. It's Bridget Cutchaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Andy Storch. He is the author of Own Your Career, Own Your Life, and he's a consultant and people connector. Is that the right word? I think you're on mute too, Andy, somehow.
I am. I'm just letting you introduce me. That's all. Showing off the book.
Can you say hi to everybody?
You got it.
Can you say
Bridget,
hi?
I'm excited to be here. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate it. And I love your energy. And I think your very positive outlook on life is much needed these days.
Yes.
And I think that's probably why you've been really successful, as being a connector with other people. People see that you can be trusted. And I, for people that are listening, I met Andy through Honore Porter in a mastermind, and we're learning so much from each other and trying to build on each other's strengths. Is that the right word? And connecting.
Totally.
I guess my first question is your book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life. What made you want to write this book? I'm just curious about that.
Well, yeah, I'd be happy to share. And Bridget, thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And I am grateful that we were connected through our mutual friend and mentor, Honore Corridor. And, we met and, right away I was going through a cancer, diagnosis and treatment. And you reached out to me right away to share your story and help lift me up. And I really appreciate that. And of course, I know we'll probably go into that later. But as far as the book is concerned, I've been working in the corporate space as a consultant for more than a decade now. And I've had the opportunity and pleasure of working with executives and managers in large companies all over the world. I've traveled across Europe and Asia, Australia, all over North America, working with different companies and teaching things like leadership development, strategy, finance, stuff like that. And I've seen what helps people become successful. I've also noticed throughout that time a lot of employees really kind of drifting through their careers, waiting for their boss or other people to tell them what to do, operating in reaction mode, not being very strategic about where they want to go with their career, not being very intentional with their actions for their career and for their life. And so I wanted to write this book to give people, a bit of a roadmap for how they can be more intentional, how they can, start to own their careers, really prepare for the future, because there are so many things that could happen in the future of work. Work is changing, jobs are changing. We know from 2020 that anything can change and people can lose jobs, and you want to do the work now to prepare for that and then really take ownership of your life as well. The other reason I wrote this book is I left corporate consulting and became an entrepreneur a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love that. But one of the things I noticed is that there are a lot of people out there saying that, hey, if you don't love your job, you need to quit the 9-to-5 and go run your own business, right? Which is great for some people like you and I who enjoy running our own business, but not everybody is made to be an entrepreneur. There are a lot of people out there who have no interest in all the risk and ups and downs that come with running your own business. They would much rather work for a company and have the community that's involved in that and everything else. They just want to be happy and fulfilled in their careers. And so I wanted to also provide a resource that would allow people to do that. And so I started writing the book in early 2020. I published it in November of 2020, and excited to have it out there and making an impact. And I've heard a lot of great feedback so far, and just been really cool to be a published author.
I really like it. Gives you some validity. Am I using the word correctly? And
yeah.
I got a copy here, guys, if you're not looking at the video, but I haven't finished it yet, but I really like how you pointed out just how careers change and then how new jobs are going to come up. Like 20 years ago, there was no such thing as a social media manager.
Right. Yeah.
And who knows what's going to be around in 5 or 10 years. And
yeah, I mean, jobs are changing all the time. I don't know, Bridget, we didn't talk about this, if you have, a professional editor or podcast producer for your podcast, but, there are a lot of people that do that. That job didn't exist 20 years ago, right? It was a completely different realm. And 20 years from now, who knows what jobs are going to be existing or popular that we can't even fathom right now. Things are changing all the time, which is why it's so important to invest in continuous learning, to be always educating yourself. You can't rely on that 4-year degree that you got 10, 20, 30 years ago and expect that that's going to, help you through the rest of your career. You've got to keep learning. You've got to keep networking. You've got to keep building your brand because, you don't really know what the future holds. And I want to help people be prepared for that.
That's a really good valid point. It's you got to definitely take ownership of you because I've been one of those people. I've never really wanted to be famous, but I wanted to make my own decisions and I learned that through the corporate world, right? I got my degree 30 years ago, and it's so different. I mean, it's a business degree, but in marketing, right? And marketing changes like every 6 months. I swear to God, it does. It seems.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you want to do marketing today, if someone came to me and I haven't worked in marketing per se, like marketing consulting, but I love marketing and I get really into it with all the stuff I do with my business. To me, marketing is all connected with social media today, right? It's about how do you leverage platforms like LinkedIn and Instagram and TikTok to build your brand? How do you leverage Facebook ads and Instagram ads and organic marketing and outreach and all kinds of stuff that didn't exist 15, 20 years ago, right? If you were studying marketing in, 2005, you wouldn't have been talking about any of those things. We would have been talking about, television and radio and things that were working, magazines, newspaper. Yeah, newspaper ads. I got early jobs through like newspaper and classified ads and like that stuff that's gone, right? And so that the world is changing. We have to continue to adapt. We can't just rely on whatever we learned a long time ago.
It definitely seems to be, maybe it's just me, it just seems to have been accelerated, I think, since last year. I think because the positive aspect of last year, it did allow us to pause and just reflect, okay, what am I doing? What should be doing going forward? And hopefully some people take advantage of that. And you are an example of getting really kicked in the, what, with he got cancer diagnosis at the end of 2020. I think right after you released your book, or right around.
Pretty much the same time I published it was like 3 weeks before I published my book, and I got diagnosed with testicular cancer, and the urologist I met with wanted me to go into surgery the next week to have my testicle removed, and because there was a tumor there. And I was like, no, hang on. I got a little bit of work to do to get my book published. So let's just postpone that. Maybe that was not smart. I don't know. But I waited 3 weeks to get my book published. And then 2 days after I published my book, I went into surgery. I had my testicle removed and then recovered for a couple of weeks. And then found out later that the cancer had spread to different places in my body, my stomach, my neck. And then started some different treatments. I attempted to do some natural treatments at first. But then the pain just got so terrible in January that I ended up going in to the hospital and starting chemo. And I was in the hospital for 6 days, and I've been doing chemotherapy treatment for the last couple of months. You and I are recording this in March.
Right.
Hope to be coming to the end of that near soon, but I don't know yet. Waiting on a scan, but it's been definitely a challenge, especially, when you publish a book and you're building a business around that. You're ambitious like you and I are. I had plans to launch a new course and a community and all these things from the book. And I essentially ended up on the couch for 2 months, but I started sharing my journey on social media, and just had so much great support from friends and family. It was just amazing. And then when I could, I started working again and, starting to build things out. And I'm still, working on doing a little marketing here and there, building the brand, bringing in new clients, running the community I run, and just, trying to keep things going with the business. Going back to being an entrepreneur, there's not really a salary to fall back on. So you got to keep, doing what you can to grow the business.
Right. And on top of it, you're a father with 2 young kids, which it definitely is very challenging just to have kids, right? And then you're dealing with.
Yeah, it's already a challenge to begin with, let's be honest.
Right. And then you have to deal with, I'm sure you had to rely on your wife a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know you've been through this as well. And my wife has been a rock. She's been through her own cancer journey. My wife had thyroid cancer a little more than a year ago. Thankfully, she had her thyroid removed and didn't need to do any treatment beyond that. So she was okay, and she's fine and healthy today. And she's helped take care of a lot of stuff with the house and the kids and everything while I was on the couch for a couple months. And And it was frustrating because I like to be active with them, and we go out and do a lot of stuff on the weekends. I take them paddle boarding and biking and stuff like that. And I just couldn't do that for a while. It's still a little bit challenging, but they understand. And I mean, sort of, they're young. But we're totally fine. Kids are resilient. They get by, they go to school and come home, and, maybe we can't always play games together, but we can still talk and hug and do those things. And I'm just so grateful that I've had them throughout this journey, that I've had my wife there to help take care of me. I mean, those first few weeks, going through chemo, that you can't do it alone. I told my mom, if I was a single guy, you'd be moving in with me, because there's no way I could do this by myself, and we shouldn't have to face most challenges on our own. That's why we need family and friends and communities to belong to. And it's a shame in our, modern Western society, a lot of people are isolated and became even more isolated under COVID, which is why I think it's even more important to seek out communities like what you and I belong to together, where we met, and be active on social media for the right reasons, connecting with the right people, because there's a lot of opportunity to connect. And I think it can provide a lot of value in our lives versus trying to do everything on our own.
Exactly. That is well stated. It is definitely a challenge in life. Just even before COVID, it was, I mean, it can be, to be, honest. And just you were a working parent who had his own business. Right?
Yeah.
Then you had to deal with your wife's issue, and then you had COVID, and then you had, well, you didn't have COVID. I'm sorry. COVID was happening.
I did not have COVID, but
Yeah, sorry.
COVID was definitely a challenge, because when COVID hit in March 2020, my entire business was selling and running in-person training. I was getting on planes and flying around the country and the world, running leadership development workshops, and that got completely shut down. All my clients canceled everything and went away for many months. We converted some programs to virtual, but forced me to completely pivot with my business. And as a result of that, though, I launched a membership community, which has grown to over 80 members now. I published the book, and I started some new things with my business, and that's one of the things I talk about in my book, and in with a lot of people in talks that I give, that it's so important to have the right mindset, have a growth mindset, that you're always trying things, you're learning from opportunities, challenges are going to come up, and the more we can turn challenges into opportunities, the better off we're going to be in business and life. And so that's what I need to do. And I know I'm not alone. A lot of people needed to pivot with their businesses in 2020 and are still doing that.
Right. And that is, to be honest with you, one of the reasons I got involved with the mindset this year. Not the mindset, I'm trying to say,
the mastermind.
Yeah, sorry, because I was thinking what you're saying, the mindset. That's really one of the reasons, is to make sure I'm on the right path, based on what my knowledge and skills is. We all have different knowledge and skills, and you can use it in a different industry. Is that the right word? And find a way to help people. It's definitely, I consider myself lucky, even though my just because I try to plan ahead, but we all still got slapped in the face.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Well, Mike Tyson famously said, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Right. Right. I was slapped, but anyway,
yeah.
it was right. That's how you have to look at it. And just like, wow, it just helped me realize how much gratitude I have for what, my family, having my family and my husband, and just the contacts and friends. It is just so important. And I met Honore through somebody else. And then, long story short, I'm involved. And then I met you. And I think there's a total of 12 people in our group.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really nice. I love to hear other people's perspectives too. I think that's important. And not be in a bubble. Is that the right word?
Yeah. And not try to do everything yourself. You hear what other people are doing. You're like, oh, can you teach me how to do that? And people are always happy to share, right? And then you say, okay. And that's why I started the membership community I run, which is geared towards corporate talent development professionals.
Okay.
Because I ran a conference in January 2020 called the Talent Development Think Tank. It was a big success, and everybody had a blast. And we started selling tickets for the next one, which was going to be in January 2021. And then, I ended up canceling that because of COVID, of course. But I know the reason that a lot of people go to conferences, one is to hear from speakers and learn from them. But the biggest benefit is always connecting with other participants, other people there, right? And learning from them and building friendships and relationships that can help them and in their own jobs or their business, whatever it may be. And so I started the community as kind of a ongoing conference, if you will, for people that knowing that we can't go to physical conferences anymore, but we can meet with each other virtually on a regular basis. So, we've got a Slack channel where people can communicate, and then we do a Zoom call every Wednesday, and people love it. They love connecting with us, hearing what other people are working on. We bring in guest speakers, things like that. So I love belonging to communities like that, and I'm really enjoying running this community and being able to connect people, especially while they can't go to conferences.
And I see that you're getting energy from this. You know what I'm saying? You're getting
Oh
energy
yeah,
from people, and I'm one of those as well. And that's what my husband mentioned to me last year. He goes, "You get more energy when you're around other people, because in the beginning you're like, what the heck do we do?" Right? And so Zoom was really helpful. Like I only did a couple speaking things on Zoom. Right before it happened, my last speaking thing in person was in February, and then poof, March. That's okay, but I'm still so grateful to just be here, and I just
yeah.
didn't really know you had that. To be honest with you, the talent development think tank, is it strictly for people in HR, or for, is
Well,
there?
I mean, it's certainly not restricted. If you
Right.
run a business and you are interested in talent development, the
Okay.
developing your employees, giving them development opportunities, it might be beneficial. But yeah, the primary niche or the focus is for people who work in corporate learning and development or talent development, who are thinking about, how do we create the right training programs for our people? How do we develop our people, create better leaders, things like that. So, a lot of the topics. But we bring in guest speakers to talk about a lot of different things. This week, we've got a guest speaker coming to talk about emotional intelligence and how we
Oh
help people
yeah.
with that in organizations, and things like that. So that's kind of the main focus for the group, and it's been great. That's the niche I've been working in for a few years now. I host a podcast called the Talent Development Hot Seat, which is all about talent development, and that was what the conference was. So I saw the community as kind of the natural extension of the conference, and it is something I had been thinking about launching along with the conference. And then when COVID hit, to me, it just seemed like we need to do this now because people need that community, like you said, especially those who, some people work in big companies and they've got a lot of people to talk to, even if they work remotely. But a lot of people work in smaller companies or smaller groups, and they don't have that many people to talk to find out, hey, what are other people doing? What are people working on? What are the best practices? So you're not just trying to make this up on your own. So I'm a big fan of joining communities like that. I pay to belong to a few myself. So even if you don't work in talent development, if this is a new concept to you, I always recommend, like, seek out those people you admire that you follow on social media. See if they run a mastermind or a membership community or something
Right.
in your niche, whether it be for entrepreneurs or talent development or research and development professionals, whatever you work in. And see if there's a community that you can join where you can just hear what other people are working on and what their challenges are, and maybe you can help, and maybe you can get help with the stuff you're working on.
Right. I love that point. It's really in line with what my podcast is about, is
Yeah.
connecting with other people. You come up with other ideas, and then it'll help you solve a problem, or a solution. It's not necessarily a problem, but try to fix something. The one thing that came up in my mind when you're talking, I've noticed, is there a lot of need for like change leadership? Because since just change is constantly happening, I would think that would be something in talent development as well. A lot of change
Oh
leadership.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of big companies have many roles now, titles, change management, change leadership. So many companies are going through a ton of change. I mean, the obvious thing is that with 2020 and COVID, many companies every company basically had to make the move from, working in an office to everybody working remotely, right? And there were so many companies that had kind of a culture where leadership said, we absolutely need to have people in the office to get things done. We will never let people work remotely. And that all changed overnight, right? Within a couple days, a year ago in March 2020, everybody said, hey, you got to go work from home. And to the surprise of a lot of those leaders, those executives who thought, oh, we'll always have to be in the office, people can't work remotely. Not only did people work remotely, but productivity and engagement went up, right? It
Right.
was, people got things done. Now, the downside of that is a lot of people are working too much. A lot of people are stressed, overwhelmed. Burnout has been happening more and more. So if you're running a company or a group or a division or something, you have to watch out for that. You have to think about the wellness of your people. But there's a lot of changes happening, and for the good, I think. There's more flexibility, a lot more people working remotely, a lot more. But then companies having to invest a lot more in technology, IT being ramped up. And so there's a big need for change management and people who can do that effectively. And it's often not as simple as just saying like, hey, this is our new strategy, like go do it. Because, people tolerate what they hear from their leaders, but they really take action on what they experience for themselves. So you got to
Right.
find ways for people to really experience that, to learn it, to get behind it, to get excited about it, to convince the naysayers that this is the new way to go, this is the way it's going to work, and get people on board. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. And you need your best leaders on board and kind of walking the talk. But yeah, there's a lot of people now in these change management roles, and often they are connected to talent development because there's
Right.
often training and learning that goes along with making these big pivots.
It's really a lot of it's about awareness too. That's the first step.
Yeah.
Right. It's an emotional thing too for some people.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of emotions involved. And they say that people, naturally resist change, which is not necessarily true. People change all the time. People resist things that they think are going to negatively impact their ability to achieve their own personal goals. Right.
Right.
And so they're always evaluating situations to say, like, oh, is this going to hurt am I possibly going to lose my job, or am I not going to fit well into this new strategy? Or is this going to be more work for me that I don't want to do? And so you got to have open discussions with people about what it means for them, how it might impact them, and why it's beneficial for them to get on board with new changes. And then if people are not going to get on board, then sometimes you got to let people go because
Right.
you've got to make those changes.
It has to fit the right the strategy.
Right.
I guess they have to participate in it in the right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I just still I really love your perspective and all this knowledge that you have. And what helps is that you, like I mentioned earlier, very, very, very positive. And you had mentioned like it's hard to be an entrepreneur, right? So what recommendation, first thing that comes to mind, would you give to somebody who wants to do that? If they do get, how do they get started doing their own business? I'm just curious.
Oh, so yeah,
What would you
what
recommend?
recommendations do we have for people that maybe want to get into running their own business, start running their own business? So number one is you got to figure out what you want to do, right? Get clarity, get a, set a vision for what type of business do you want to run? What is it? What do you want it to look like? How much money do you want to make, or how much money do you need to make? And then how are you going to get there? Start setting goals. A lot of times, you can build a business on the side while you're working for a company, and build that up to a point where like, you can't handle both. So now maybe it's time to make the jump. I hate that advice that you got to just burn the bridges, just go all in on something, when there are a lot of opportunities to do kind of a hybrid method, to do both at the same time, to ease into things, to try stuff, maybe get some contract work on the side, or even get leave and get a contract with your company. So don't burn bridges. Number two, I think the most important thing is to realize, I think the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they get into starting a business because of a passion they have around a certain topic, like writing or baking or whatever it may be, and they don't realize that when you become an entrepreneur, you also now work in sales, right? Like you have to go get clients, right? When you work for a big company and you're in finance or something, someone else is out there selling the product and you're doing your job. But once you become, you hang up your shingle and run your own accounting shop, then you are now responsible for bringing in clients, unless you have the financial resources to hire a salesperson, which maybe you
Right.
can, right? And that leads me to another thing, which is to focus on your strengths as much as possible and delegate and outsource the other things if and when you can. So as soon as you can hire an assistant or someone to do administrative stuff or to do the accounting, if you're not good with numbers, you really should, because it frees you up to focus on the things that you're really good at, to get into your zone of genius, if you will. So I am I love talking to people, facilitating, making connections, doing interviews like this. I do not like the administrative stuff. I'm not very detail oriented. So I have an assistant who helps me keep track of a lot of the details. She runs the back end of my membership community, because if I did it on my own, things would be falling through the cracks all the time. Right. She helps me manage all the social media stuff that I'm putting out there, helps me manage. I have 2 podcasts and I can't keep track of all this stuff. I need someone to help me with that. So I do think that it's important to, even when like you're close to thinking you can afford it, but you don't think you can afford it, that you still should, because there's opportunities there. Then it frees you up to focus more time on the things you're good at, which in theory are more valuable, to you and your business. And then the other thing I would say is, don't try to do it alone, right? We've been talking about communities and masterminds. Hire a coach, join a mastermind group, join a membership community with other entrepreneurs who are building businesses, ideally similar to yours, so that you can learn from them and you can support each other and root each other on, like Bridget, you and I have done for the last few weeks as we've been getting to know each other in our group. And it just becomes so much more powerful. Accountability is huge. Support is huge. Humans are social creatures. We are not meant to do things on our own. I don't care if you're an introvert or an extrovert. It's just not how we're designed. We need social constructs. We need community. We need people around us. We need a tribe. And so you need support, especially if you don't have a spouse, maybe who could be right there to help support you with your business. You need friends, and you need positive, uplifting, ambitious friends and people around you who can support you, not those people who are going to bring you down and say like, oh, you could never do that. You got to ditch those people and be around the right people. So figure out where you want to go, connect to your purpose and your values, set the right goals, surround yourself with the right people. Make sure that you remember that you are in sales, and make sure you have a plan to bring in clients and customers, and give it a shot, right? Life is short. And even if it doesn't work out, you can always go back and get another job.
I like that too. I always wanted to do my own thing, but I was kind of like forced into it. I don't know if
Yeah.
most people know this, but I had clients who convinced me my own thing, because I had built that trust. And that made it a little bit easier on me. That makes sense, to make that leap. But I agree with you. Life is short, and do if you can, if that's what you want to do. And definitely don't do everything yourself. I'm guilty of trying to do that in the past, because I'm one of those very detail-oriented people.
Opposite of me. We complement each other nicely.
Right. And so I just look at all the details, but then there's some days I don't want to be involved in too much details. Right. But I think you're very, very inspirational. You definitely have displayed a lot of resilience. I just can't imagine dealing with what you went through last year, COVID, and then you had just gotten over helping your wife get over cancer, right?
Yeah.
And COVID hit,
Yep.
and that messed up your business. You had to pivot on that. Then you wrote a book, which is fantastic, which took a lot of work.
Yep.
And then you got cancer. Then you're here and you're so positive. And I think it's a really what the kind of story people want to hear and see. And he's not faking it, guys. He's real. I mean, you know what I'm saying? And
yeah. No. There's nothing fake about me. I'm all about authenticity.
right. I love it.
You got to be yourself. Right.
And those that aren't looking at a video, he's bald, and it's just, I think it's fantastic. I mean,
hey, nothing wrong with being bald, but I previously was not bald a few weeks ago, but I did lose all my hair from chemo.
Right. But I saw it, to me, after I dealt with all that crap, and I was bald too. I was surprised that everyone's complimented on my head. I'm like, really? Okay.
I get a lot of that too. Yeah.
Right?
It's nice.
And you're like, and I just appreciate that, and just to support each other and lift each other up. And I really appreciate you being here today. Andy, can you tell us where people can learn more about you? Is there a website?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Bridget. And, just to comment on that, life is short, life is beautiful. Focus on gratitude, no matter what challenges you're facing. We all have challenges, and we can always find gratitude for things we have in our life. And gratitude has helped me so much through this journey. I'm so grateful for my family, for my friends, for my network, for you, Bridget, for this opportunity, for every opportunity that comes my way. And I know, if I do the right things, things will always get better. And so I'm always, building for the future. And I know that for you out there, whoever you are, whatever challenge you're dealing with, Gratitude can help you get through it. So don't forget that. I do share a lot of my journey and other things on social media. So you can find me very active on LinkedIn and Instagram. You can find me there, connect with me. Let me know you heard me on Bridget's show. And if you want to get my book, Own Your Career, Own Your Life, of course, it's available on Amazon. And we also have some free bonus resources, including the 5 steps to owning your career. If you go to ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus, ownyourcareerownyourlife.com/bonus, you can download those free resources and reach out and let me know that you got them and you heard me on the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm going to go check that out too. I really love the way you're trying to help everybody, and just gratitude. That is perfectly great way to end this. And I'm grateful for you guys, and you too, Andy.
Thank you, Bridget.
Have a great day, everybody.